I think I can accept the fact that I share the earth with billions of strangers. What is frustrating and never ceases to amaze and infuriate me is the fact that some of those strangers are people that I used to know. It's like the old favorite Got Ya song, somebody that I used to know. And you know what? I wouldn't even really put past lovers or, old people that you were really close to in this category because I think that time heals all wounds. And for people that you were genuinely close with and you sense at least that the feeling was reciprocated, they were equally close with you, you kind of think that like you can choose to look at the good times. Um and yeah, you look back fondly and you're like, I don't really ever want to run into this person ever again. But uh yeah, they're they're walking the earth and that's fine. Let's just remember the good stuff. I'm talking more about the people where it's just like, oh yeah, you were in my life for a few years and now I've completely forgotten about you. And now it just annoys me to know that you're still around. Like there is a chance, even if I've moved continents, I've become a fucking monk in Nepal, there's still a chance that we could bump into each other IRL. And it would be like, oh fuck, I don't want to deal with this. And it's like, I don't know, there must be some type of evolutionary reasoning for this in respect to like how we socialize. You bond with people. There's a there's an impulse to kind of be like, all right, you're like in my inner circle now, kind of. You're one of the good ones. And then as soon as someone drifts out of your life, it's kind of like, well, now it's a potential threat because they were close to me once upon a time and they know where I store my fucking nuts for the winter. So if I don't eliminate this cunt, maybe one day a few cashews are going to go missing. And it could be one of these people who used to be a part of the inner sanctum. So I got to take care of business and hate them from a distance. Is that what's going on? Is that why people annoy me somehow just by merely existing? I reckon you have it with people like entertainers. Like Bruce Springsteen used to be a bit of one of those for me. This is slightly different though. This is more just people where it's like you don't like there's something about the shape of their body or the shape of their face where like turns you off. You're like, I don't know, or the timbre of their voice. For years I was like, I don't get fucking Bruce. What's going on here? And then one day Bruce clicked. But I imagine there would be people out there where it's like, yeah, what is the fuss with Bruce? I don't fucking get it. And yeah, that's not the perfect example here because I'm talking about more people that you knew once upon a time. You thought they were all right. They're nothing special, but they were like around. Then they go away and then you're just like, ugh, it sucks to have to continue walking the same earth as this person that I used to think was okay. And what's interesting is that they the inverse can be popular, can be true as well, right? That you could be that person for someone. Unbeknownst to you, you used to be a part of someone's life. You moved on, and maybe in your head, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember, um, old mate from back in the day. Wonder how he's doing." You still have kind of like fond memories, but for them, you're like, "Oh, remember that cunt? Remember that Tommy cunt? Oh fuck, he fucking annoys me. It was all right at the time. Didn't do anything to slide me. We had a perfectly fine relationship, but now he infuriates me." And what's beautiful with the internet is that you can kind of stalk people. You can see what they're up to. And in some ways, this kind of it doesn't help. It doesn't help no matter like how they're doing. Like if someone you knew like 10 years ago. You look them up on LinkedIn or Facebook or the gram, and you see what they're up to, and you're like, there it is, exactly the same. Should have guessed it. And it's like, of course, statistically, most people are going to be in a similar life spot to where they were 10 years prior. But for these people, somehow it's like more egregious. It's like, told you so. Look at this cunt still doing the same thing. And you completely ignore the fact that you're in like the same groove that you were in pretty much 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whenever it was. Your trajectory is going to be pretty predictable, I would guess, as well. But for some reason with them, it's just like, oh, of course they'd be doing that. And it rubs you the wrong way. If things have turned out well for them, they've had a glow up, or they've got a really hot partner, or they have got a fucking impressive job, or they just look like they have a cool life. You start scheming, you're like, yeah, this is not all, yeah, this doesn't make sense. They're conning people. They're this is, yeah, they're just blatantly lying. This is photoshopped. They never went to Timbuktu. You start really fucking kicking holes in the online identity that you're just giving it a bad you're giving it a bad rap regardless of what you're seeing. Yeah, and there's maybe the kind of the Bruce Springsteen syndrome a little bit where you're like, what? If they have got like a bunch of people who seemingly like them in their lives, their comments are fucking blowing up or something, like, how's this happening? What type of fucking what type of spell have they put upon all these people in their life to think that they're okay? How is this possible? So that's a possibility. And then it can go the opposite, right? You can see someone in the rare occasion where it's like 10 years ago they were doing okay. Now they're fucking, they're looking like shit. Their life looks like shit. They, I don't know, things aren't going well romantically for them. Everything's gone wrong, right? Then it can still kind of annoy you a little bit because you're like, okay, let's assume your life is going in a standard trajectory. You're doing all right. You should be able to kind of enjoy like a little bit of Schadenfreude a little bit and be like, okay, well, my hunch was right, or like the fact that this person's no longer in my life, that's a good thing. In that I thought they were okay at the time, but I must have grown to, or like whatever. You should be kind of like, this is good. But for me, at least, I'm like, okay, things are going shit, but why do I still give a fuck? Why do I still give a fuck about this person? Like that scene in Mad Men where Ginsberg is railing at Don in the elevator, and Ginsberg says, I think he says, I pity you. And Don, just like a boss, says, I don't think about you at all. And then leaves the elevator. That may or may not be true, but it's like it was the perfect thing to say to Ginsberg in that moment. Because Ginsberg is the neurotic fuck who's going to obsess over things like over minor things. And Don is the guy who can contextualize human relationships and think about the bigger picture at play. So when you become like, I don't know, for me, the older I get, the more crowded the world is because I've met more people and I'm like, oh God, more potential people where I'm sure it would be perfectly reasonable if I did bump into them ever again, but I kind of live in fear of every one of those potential interactions. Does that make any fucking sense? There's 7 billion cunts in the world, and each year I spend on Earth, I'm like, oh my God, that's at least 5 more people that I might bump into for my remaining days. And yeah, it makes me want to retreat inward and stay in my fucking little hut in Hobbiton and never fucking leave. I'm a fucking straight up and down Ginsberg, at least today. Thanks for listening. Does this make any sense? I'm not too sure. Catch you on the next one. Bye.